feel like we should be doing a meditation to start this thing, but no, we're going to come in with the energy. We're going to come in with the Soji energy. Soji, my love, my dear, I love you so much. Oh my God. Welcome to the show, dude.
Thank you for having me. As I said, I'm super excited to just sit with an individual who inspires me and who just honestly like is a light in this world. So anytime I get to surround myself and be among individuals such as yourself, it's extremely exciting for me. I'm pumped.
Literally the best part of my job. I know. Okay. So as a seasoned podcaster, for a whole year now, I have moved away from the like, take us back to where you started. Because I just feel it's 2023. People can look it up. They can read your bio. I don't really want to talk about that. But with you, I would like to go back for a second if you're open to it.
I love it.
Okay.
I'm an open book. Let's do it.
So I know you grew up in the projects in the Bronx. You had probably a rough upbringing there, and you were surrounded by a ton of just negativity, poverty. Your parents got a divorce when you were pretty young. And so habits, mentors, people that you look up to might not have been what people would assume when they see you today. So today you're a coach, you're a fitness coach, a strength coach, you're a meditation coach. You have the most beautiful ability to toggle between extremely like come to the YouTube, you'll see what I'm talking about. You're extremely grounded. You have like the best energy. And then also this like hype up Tony Robbins, better than a cup of coffee, just like all the energy in the world. And you have that juxtaposition, which I love so much about you. So just take us back for a moment. How did you end up here when that's where you had started?
As you said, man, grew up in the projects, and when I say poverty, I'm talking like, I was actually joking with my brother about like a couple of weeks ago, waking up in the middle of the night and like shutting the lights off because you have to go to the bathroom and like stomping because roaches are scattering everywhere.
Ooh.
Like I'm talking like negativity kind of surrounding like your role models, or not even my role models, but the people in the area who were successful. They were kind of like the drug dealers. They were the gang members. Like that was the popular thing to do. You know what I mean? And while my parents split when I was around 11 or 12, I luckily had both parents present. So that's something I'm extremely grateful for in all aspects. I had a father who was a Nigerian immigrant, came over the country when he was 24. So his whole kind of demeanor was like, work hard and kind of step out into the world and take ownership of how you show up and also go after what you want. And I had a mom who was the Soji, you're my sunshine. You could do anything you put your mind to, right? So I think that was like the perfect ramen bowl of like stepping outside of my house and like, and the thing is too, like I go back there and I'm good, right? Like, so I'm also a chameleon who could blend into different environments, but I never let my environment dictate who I want to show up as that time.
Was that
So
nature or nurture? Like how at 11 years old were you not allowing your environment to dictate your actions?
I had to grow up quick. I had to grow up
Yeah.
quick. You know what I mean? I had, the environment in itself, it wasn't conducive towards you being naive or, like I remember I was 7 years old. I remember 7 years old being outside in a playground with my little sister, and we're 2 years apart, so she's about 5 years old. So I'm outside. I remember being on the basketball courts, and I'm saying like maybe 6 feet away from me, there was a dude pulls out a gun, starts shooting at people in the bushes. So there's a shootout. So everyone's running in the park, and I'm frozen. I feel like I'm in like a John Wick action movie. I'm not gonna front. I pause for a second, and then eventually the adrenaline leaves, and I'm like, I got to get my sister out of here. So guy who's getting shot, he's ducking under a bike, jumps on his bike, almost runs my sister over. So I kind of grab her, jump on my bike, and get out of there. But like this was a normal type of occurrences, to be honest. Yeah. And you're either as I said, like I had that ramen bowl of you can do whatever it is that you want to do, but your environment, you're going to walk out into the world and people are going to try to take the pen from you and write a story for you.
Yeah.
You can have the option to, kind of sit back and just flip through the pages, or you can snatch that pen back and try to mold or design what you want this life to look like for yourself. And
all right,
for me,
but like 7-year-old Soji, I mean, how did you not, or did you step into seasons of victim mentality? It's not fair. Why am I here? Or was it just normal? So like you didn't even feel that way. Did you ever blame your parents for putting you in this situation or your neighborhood or anything like that?
no, I never did. Honestly, I feel like I was also in a situation where the right mentor always came along at the right time, if that makes sense. You know,
Yeah.
maybe Miss McFadden in fourth grade who took a liking to me and just like maybe brought me to events, you know, down in the city just that I didn't have access to, you know, going to high school. I remember my history teacher, you know, he put me in mock trial and took me, Cornell West took me to my first basketball game. But these are all people who were just like, there was something special about you. Like, I want to talk you close and kind of guide you and show you something different. So I kind of like, you know, put one step out in front of the other, and just with a combination of energy and being in the right place at the right time, I would find the next guide who would get me to the next space of my life protected, if that makes sense. You
And
know,
is
so
that like at that moment you were like, I want to be this guide for other people, or did that come later?
you know, I've always, my mom was always that person for me in terms of uplifting. Like, as I said, I walk out into other places and, you know, I'd experiences other things like bullying, for example. And, you know, I would come back to my mom and she'd be like that safe haven. And for me, I always did that for other people when I could. So even especially after my parents split up and were divorced, you know, I have an older brother, I had a younger sister, we're all just kind of going through our own aspects of life. But for a period there, like I stepped in as my mom was struggling and I was like, you know, cooking meals, I'm, you know, getting her stuff. And you know, we even had a conversation a couple years back. She was like, you know, if I didn't have you at that time, I would have probably committed suicide. Like,
Oh,
really, you were, you know, she held me up as much as I held her up. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? And like, for me, I wanted to step out into the world, and I was like, if I'm gonna do this life thing, I'm gonna do it in an impactful way, and I'm gonna pay it forward. Because that just also, it's a little selfish. It also makes me feel great to see other people smile and feel
of
exceptional and feel
course.
like that version of themselves.
Of
And I feel like,
course.
you know, you get in those situations, you're just playing off of each other's energy. So I just want to kind of go into spaces, uplift them, and feed off that energy to take to the next spot and change lives.
Mm.
Like it's just the vibe that just cycles me every day when I get up in the morning, to be honest.
Are both your parents still around?
So my father died. He died 10 years ago. 10 years
Oh,
ago, random heart attack.
wow.
And, you know, that's another thing that kind of blends into who I am in my training business today, right? Like for me, you know, a lot of you take a step back, you look at the fitness industry, and you know, you see the get fit quick schemes and the different diets peddled here and there, and a lot of, you know, people's insecurities being kind of peddled to sell products. And for me, like that moment when my father passed, like that was life changing for me. I remember he was an immigrant, as I said, from another country. So in his mind, being a doctor or a lawyer was the only way to be successful. So he's thought like, you know, that was how he saw fit to make me be successful in this world. So he'd push that upon me. And I remember when I first told him I was going to be a trainer, he was just like, you know, you're wasting your life. You are a failure. You
Wow.
are, you know, like, what are you doing with yourself? And I used to always be like, you know what? Like, I used to kind of brush it off. I'm going to show you. So I had this chip on my shoulder. I'm going to step out. I'm going to build something, and I'm going to come back and just show you that you can make it as anything, right? So I used to ignore all his calls. I remember when it
Wow.
actually this happened around the same time when I first started dating my wife. So she'd be like, pick up the phone, just speak to your father. Like, just give him a chance. Ah, no, whatever. I always have the opportunity to. So I remember one time I was actually leaving. I was still living. I moved out of college, moved back home. I was leaving to actually go visit my now wife at the time. And I saw a bunch of my father's friends who were in my mother's neighborhood. And it was just a really weird thing. They were like, you know, Soji, I think you need to come back upstairs. We want to tell you something. So they bring me upstairs. I'm just like, you know what, what's going on? So they sit me and my mother down. They're like, you know, your father, he had a heart attack. He was in Nigeria and the hospitals were on strike. So they sent him one hospital and the doctors turned him away. So he died in transit to the next hospital.
Oh my
So
gosh.
for me, it was like a really, you know, I remember I almost fell. I remember just, you know, all the color leaving my face. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I immediately just thought like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? You just take things for granted. You take life for granted. All these times you could have picked up a phone, you could have been having connection and conversation. And maybe like a year before, we'd gone to Nigeria for the first time and I experienced his country like I always wanted to show it to me since he was a kid. So that was a moment I always cherish. But I also wasn't able to go see him be buried because of family issues and family struggle. So you know, I had this one voicemail on a phone that for years I would just replay that until that got lost. But that was for me, it was a moment that I kind of bring into my fitness kind of philosophy now, right? Like, you know, this thing is about and no goal is right or wrong, but there's bigger things than
Abs.
abs. Exactly. Abs and big biceps, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So getting out into the world and just being present and understanding what you value, understanding the feelings you want more of in your life, more of the people, places, and things you want to surround yourself with is really, it's important. And we don't have time that we think we do have. So, that's why I approach every conversation with a smile. And that's why I tell people like, yo, you can do epic things.
Yeah.
Watch me.
Yeah.
Epic things. Right? Epic things in this world, but it's really about kind of getting out of your own way and just stepping into the mess and just going,
Yeah. I'm so grateful for trainers like you. I would say, I mean, I was one for 18 years. I would say the majority that I came across had a similar kind of outlook where it wasn't just the abs and the biceps, even though the exterior looks like that. And that is often what sort of sells the industry. But I would say most trainers that I've come across have that really great, just grounded, it's gratitude for movement. It's being able to move in a way that you can. It's having your health. It's all of those things. And I just love how you intertwine that into your message. If you're talking about meditation, if you're talking about mindset, if you're talking about health or fitness, and it's so much more than like a diet plan. And you're not your average trainer in that way. So you get into fitness because at one point we're still back. We're in the past still. So at one point you kind of have your own, you even said before, bullying going on, sort of self-esteem challenges because you're overweight. This is like so hard for me to imagine.
This is
Y'all check out YouTube. Soji is not overweight.
This is my superhero trainer moment, right?
Yeah.
This is where, they built that hero on Center Mountain to the world. So I was like, this is like fifth grade. I'm like 10 years old. And we're on a senior trip to the Poconos. And, I was, I'm coming out with my Pokemon towel. At the time, Pokemon was hot. I don't know if you listen to this playback, what was the thing? So I'm coming out to the pool. I'm feeling like when Justin Bieber used to walk Floyd Mayweather out to the championship fight, right? I'm the last one in. There's all the boys lined up sitting on the outside of a pool on one side. All the girls are lined up on the opposite side, right? I walk into the pool. And at this time, as I said, my parents were on the verge of divorce. So they used to compete over the randomest thing. Like my mom would feed me and my dad like, yo, she ain't cooked good enough. You got to take this, right? Like random things just to kind of bicker and like bump heads with each other, right? And, there's a combination of obviously dad, like I didn't need that extra food, I'm good. But also just the stress in the environment,
Sure.
how it coped, right? Like, you're playing video games, you're eating. I'm already in an urban area where, like I cross the street, there's a liquor store, KFC, McDonald's, like it just wasn't healthy practices around there. So for me, I didn't even realize, right? Like my dad used to be like, you're just big bone, you good. So I walked to the swimming pool and everyone, they turned and they look at me. And this is like, I felt like they were like, the girls were like Destiny's Child, like in unison. The guys were like, you feel like the Rough Riders or something. Ew.
Oh, kids are so mean.
Oh, kids are something else, man. Kids, my wife, I know you're a teacher too as well. My wife's a teacher and she's like they get to an age where they're kind of like the devil from like 9 to 12.
Yeah.
But like me, not really even having this concept of body image or awareness, I was immediately like kind of like ripped and snapped too, right? And at that point, if I could have had like an invisibility cloak or like a rocket ship, your boy would have took off. I would have been out of here. I would have been, doing this call from Mars or something. But it was a really eye-opening experience. And it really that was the first time I felt not at home in myself. It was the first time I was like, I felt extremely unconfident. It was the first time that I felt like I didn't have value or I didn't belong, So after that, I kind of began to follow my older brother around and started to play basketball. And, that was kind of my first foray into movement and just like fitness and health in general. And eventually got good enough to play in college, right? Like
Incredible.
Yeah, entered in as like this, at that point, super frail dude, but I was introduced to a strength coach. Keith Kennedy's the man. And he literally changed my life. It started out something where he was like, Soj, like we're lifting with the team. And I'm just like starting to notice, you're getting a little stronger. You get a little more confident. You're walking into rooms with your chest a little bit higher, right? Like,
yeah, you're looking like Justin Bieber now.
Yeah, exactly. Now, exactly. I'm like modern day Justin Bieber at this point, right? Walking into places, I was like, yo, like just commanded different attention. You walk in a
Yeah.
room, commanded different respect, also felt more respect for myself with the work I was putting in, right? Like the discipline I was exhibiting. So I was like, yo, everyone deserves to experience this, right? Like when we could really feel at home in ourselves and really unleash our true potential and confidence, we can step out to the world and we can manifest and create anything. I firmly believe that, right?
Yeah.
So he said, he was like, so you just get a training certification. If you don't get a job upon leaving, like it'd be something to fall back on. And it's wow, that also seeded and created something else in me at a time, but where I really just thought it was like this fallback thing. But now as I got older, but we'll come there.
What were
But
you going to school for?
oh,
Biology, right? Okay.
biology. Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
not far off. Very similar
Exactly,
sciencing.
not
Yeah.
too far off. Because I actually want to go to physical therapy school. So
Sure.
yeah, that was a whole thing too as well. And yeah, like I stepped out to the world from that point, and I was like, as a dude of service, I just said to myself, like this in the interim, right? Like, I love to speak and I love getting in the rooms. I'm high energy. I'd hug everyone in the room if I could, right? And just like listen to all their problems and, wish them the best. But I was like, how can I really impact lives on scale? And I thought like this is a way for me to give back to the world by uplifting people who could go out and give back into the world, right? So that was like my fitness, the initial point of my fitness journey. We kind of started at this Velocity Sports Performance in Westchester, eventually worked my way into the city. It was like it was the 92nd Street Y. It was a different gym where I didn't come up through like an Equinox or one of those gyms where there was a ton of like, and not say I would be against it, but it was just there wasn't like the sales pressure. So it really like allowed me to build relationships and
Sure.
like really just foster growth without feeling like somebody was kind of standing over my shoulder doing things, right? So it was kind of learning. I was just connecting with people, just getting to know their names, where you're from, what are your dreams, your aspirations. And I was able to build up, a clientele of about 20, 25 people. And eventually when this gym was like, I also did basketball training there, and they'd come to me and they've said, so you could do one or the other. And this is another case of somebody trying to take the pen from me and write my story for me. So I was
Yeah.
like, your boy's gonna go out on his own and just do his own thing. I remember somebody saying, you're gonna regret this, you're gonna need to come back here and work. And obviously we know the rest of that story. But yeah, I was able to take the pen back, kind of go into my own and begin to work in the city. Was spread out Upper East Side, Midtown, Soho, just kind of bouncing around. And, I was changing lives. But, as I was getting older, I began to also see like I was burning the stick at both ends, right?
Yeah.
I'm up at 4 a.m. in the morning. I'm getting back at 7, 8 p.m. at night. I'm running from train to building to train. And I'm doing a lot of reading and like listening. I'm learning a lot in the cities I'm going. But it was like, I always even talk to my clients about future casting and talking about who they want to become, right? Like we talk about be do have, right?
Yeah.
Me, I was sitting at this time and I'm like, do I see myself doing this in 5 years? Do I see myself doing this in 10 years, 15 years? And the answer was no. So actually at the time, as I said, I played in New Paltz, and there was a friend of mine who also played college basketball there too as well, Jermaine Wallace. That's my boy.
No way. That's how we know each other?
It is. So Jermaine actually, so he was my recruit. He actually stood with me. I was showing him around campus. We built a pretty cool relationship and we kept in contact. So I remember I was seeing him talk about you a lot, post about you a lot. I was like, oh, let me just see what Jess is about. Shifted over and I was like, this is my energy. This is my energy. Right. So he made
Wow.
that connect, and like the rest is history. So
Shout out to Jermaine Wallace. I love Jermaine. I did not, all these years, I didn't know that.
that was that.
Maybe I did. I just don't remember. Wow.
That was my initial plug, man. And I shout out to Jermaine Wallace. I appreciate him so much. Like, because introducing him to you literally changed just even the way I think about things. I remember I was just running around the city thinking on this hour by hour basis, and this is what my income ceiling was and needed to be with the time I was like given. Went through Empower You, and just even simple, like you start off with simple things like hourly calculators and what do you want your salary to be? How much do you want to work? Future cast, like really envision what is Soji doing 10 years from now? And I really sat hard with this stuff and
Yeah.
thought. And you introduced me to even the concept of having an online group coaching course and seeing more than one person at a time, right? Like,
Yeah.
and for me as a athlete, loving the coaching and team camaraderie, like that was a dream come true to me. Like I was like, I'm excited. So I
Yeah.
went through that. I launched my group coaching course, Elevate You, and now, and then it's just even crazy the timing of things, right? So I went through Empower You, I'm gonna say right towards the end of 2019, right? 2020 kicks off. Obviously, the world, everyone's life as we know it changes forever, right? We go into the pandemic. But at first, obviously, we're thinking it's going to be 2 weeks, and we'll get back to regular scheduled programming and history, right? Like, but
Joke's on you.
exactly, jokes on you. The universe says nah, nah, nah. But for me, like, kind of, I sat out those 2 weeks, and then immediately kind of went into. I wasn't shocked with the online space. This is already something because of you. I'd already been visualizing and thinking about. I was already prepared to
Because of you.
because
Because of you. Because of you. You were the one doing the work. You were the one that saw the vision. Yes, because
I
of you.
appreciate you. You're a legend. You were the guy at that time when I talked about guys earlier who stepped into my life right at the right moment. You stepped into my life right at the right moment. I'm forever grateful for you. I appreciate you, Bash. I showed up. I put the life in a headlock. You're right. Good call. Good call.
You did. You absolutely did.
Good call.
Yeah.
And right at this time too, pandemic hits. I'm gonna say I have my first kid in August. My first son, Bernard James. He's the man. But this also allowed me, once again, if I was taking a step back and I had been future casting to, values or courtesan feelings, one of my values are freedom, right? Like being able to be location independent. I probably would say that right, but not being tied down to one space.
Yeah.
Or being able to not have to wake up at 4 a.m. and live my life when trains are running between buildings and actually spending time with the family I'm going to cultivate, right? Being able to build generational wealth so I can access things that I can pass on to my son, right? And, for me, I started out, I remember being that first kid who started off in the Y, barely cracking 30K, you know what I'm saying? Like in the city and like hustling and leaving and starting my own business. And eventually now I'm at the point I'm making 6 figures and consistently. And now at the point where I'm trying to go to the next level. Like I want to go multiple. I want to be a millionaire. That's the goal. That's my
Yeah.
goal. I want to
Hell
impact
yeah.
change. I want to pass on further. This kid from the projects, just once again, living the dream,
It's
living,
incredible.
like
Incredible. It's incredible. You talk about future casting. You've said it a couple times. I'd love if you can give us sort of what that means to you, or what's the definition. How does someone future cast? Like, what is the process of future casting?
I think, when people come to me, and I think in our society in general, we're accustomed to just the normal kind of goal setting. It's, you pick this thing out on the wall, you throw the dart at it, and this is the thing I'm going to chase after for, the next however long it takes to get there. And I really think a lot of times people, they're really unsure at the start of what they really want. At times they kind of pick goals because other people tell them those goals are cool, or that's what they should be chasing at that point in their lives, or that is what should be of value to them.
Yeah.
And I think with future casting, you're taking a step back, and number one, you're asking, how do I want to feel? I think a lot of times when we set these goals, right, like we're trying to either, get out away from a situation or bring a different feeling about into our lives. So even if you say like, I want to have 6-pack abs, or I want bigger biceps, right? Like if we strip that back underneath it all, there's a reason that we want that. Maybe it's that makes you feel more confident when you walk into a room, or that allows you to wear that bikini and walk on the beach and just feel like, I'm that chick. You know what I'm saying? Like, you feel me? Whatever it is. But I think it's number one, really important to get clear of what you want. Then I think we have to take a step back and we have to begin to ask ourselves, what are our values, right? Like the thing with goals, I feel like how it's traditionally spoken about and kind of handled, you go and hit a goal, and then it's this destination, this endpoint that you just reach. And, at that point, it's like, for example, some people, I've had clients train for marathons and they're running all these miles, and eventually they hit that goal. And afterward, it's just like, what's next? And some people completely cut off running and stop running for good. And it's always on to the next thing. And I think the difference with that is with values, they're a little bit more constant, right? Like in terms of how we lead our lives, our careers, our family, the things we value, how we spend our time. I think it's really important to get clear on those. And making decisions from the point of value is always a great way, in my opinion, I feel like always when I'm making decisions from a place of things that I value, I always feel better about myself, right?
Yeah.
It's always easier to show up when I have to do the thing maybe I don't want to do, it that's not fun in that moment, right?
I feel
So
like that's where this alignment that everyone's always talking about comes from, right? It's like alignment is it's not some like mystical, magical thing that happens. It's just when it's in line with your values and what matters to you, or your purpose or your mission or your integrity, and honoring that, then it feels aligned. But it's not like a destination that we're like searching for alignment. I don't think. I think it's kind of along the way.
I totally agree. Like, and I kind of treat it as this process that, I'm continuing on a path and just walking in a direction, right? Like,
Right. Yeah.
I
It's
totally,
breadcrumbs.
yeah, it's exactly,
It's
right?
just breadcrumbs. You're like, which one am I picking up next? And like, remembering who I am, right? Remembering what matters to me along the way. And I just imagine walking through the woods, like looking for those breadcrumbs of, it's like, oh, this isn't the right flavor. That wasn't my breadcrumb. That's someone else's, and how do I get back to finding my flavor, and my flavor being the values and the integrity and all of that. When you talk about values though, I know from the lens of business, because I teach business, there are questions I can ask someone. There's like a framework I can put someone through so that they can come up with like company values, right? Company mission, vision, values. When you're talking about it from the lens of sort of your personal values, is there like a question that you ask yourself? Is there a spreadsheet? Are we looking at like 10 words on a sheet and you circle the 5 that resonate? Like, how do you find values?
So I actually have them start off by kind of going, and I say even just Googling, Google what are some core values. And I
Cool.
have say get pretty expansive. Like there's some lists you may see that have 300, there's some that may have 10, may have 50, and just start to sit with them, right? So number one, get into a good space with this, right? Like maybe you're pulling out the coffee, you're pulling out a little glass of wine, you're turning on some music, right? So you could really just feel it. You could
Yeah.
really feel it. And I just kind of go down the list and just start to grab out or write down or just take note of what resonates deeply with you, right? Like if I come down a list, for me, gratitude just pops off the paper for me, right? Growth pops off the paper.
Yeah.
And kind of sit with each of those words individually. And maybe I would just take some time and just think of this is another way I also do. I think of some past moments in my life where I felt like I was fully in alignment and I felt my best and I felt like my energy and my vibes were high. And I just try to kind of find the constant points between those situations.
Yeah.
Right.
The
So
common like thread. I love that. I love
thread.
that.
Yes. So like that's definitely for me, like I try to tie those in. I begin to like really like this makes sense. So freedom, I liked being able to leave and go to Thailand for 3 weeks with the woman I love and just explore, adventure, like getting to meet people, connection, like it all ties into these stories. And I would say, I think like honestly, like I write my values down and I don't really think there's a separation between business and life and fitness and career. Like I really think a lot of this is intertwined, right?
Yeah.
Like so how you want to show up in your career, it's probably how you also want to show up on your fitness journey, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I can get down with that. I was just the like quote or mantra that people say, how you do one thing is how you do everything, was just sort of coming up for me, because I would agree. I mean, my own personal core values, the number one is integrity for me, and it is for Mike as well. And then it is also our number one company core value, which, side note, I really do believe that every company, that should be the number one core value regardless.
my list. I got you. No, I 100% agree with you, my girl.
Yeah, because it's just all about honoring your word, right? And especially when you're a business or a company or you're a service or you're providing a product or something like that, it's like, shouldn't that be the number one thing that you always come back to? Because the reason that we have values, personal or company, is so that when you're making decisions, it's a barometer, thermostat. I don't know, one of those things, right? It's like, it's how you measure the decision. And so it's, I don't know, should we create this product? Should we go through this pivot? Should we fire this person? And it kind of comes back to like, well, is that in line with our values? Or if you're talking about maybe letting a person go, it's like, were they out of line with these particular values? And it's not to say that it's like a line in the sand, black and white, but it's like it's a thermostat. It's just something to kind of like lean on so that you have that sort of perspective. In my opinion, that's kind of how we use it.
I love it. And I
Yeah.
say this thing with clients as well. Like, and I think when we have situations like that, you were talking about like hiring, firing, or is this the right decision to make? When you know what your values are and they resonate with you deeply, these decisions get much easier to make, and you can make them you can go to bed that night and just kind of rest a little bit more peacefully
Yeah.
when like you're acting in alignment with who you want to show up as, and just kind of who you're trying to be in this world.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you. Totally agree.
Let's shift gears a little bit. So you talk so much about mindset and obviously training. And when we look at things like fitness, something that comes up a lot with fitness is habit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this like the habit of working out, the habit of eating healthy. I'm not feeling motivated. I fell off track. How do I get back on track? What is your opinion on good versus bad when it comes to things like habits?
I think I try to take the morality out of it, in my opinion, right? So I think just like we talk about, I think everything has value in some sense, right? So I try to look at a habit as, we could say somebody is staying up late watching Netflix or something like that, right? So, maybe for their goal of waking up early and reading the next morning, that might make things a little bit difficult, right?
Yeah.
But if they're staying up a little bit later because they're maybe sitting on the couch with their kid and they're just bonding and having some epic time, there's no way I'm going to sit and call that wrong, right? Because they're connecting, they're feeding their wellness pot in a different way.
Mm.
I try to help people take a step back, and this kind of even ties into that future casting. I think another big piece of habits is kind of getting clear of your identity, right? Getting clear of who you need to become to go where you want to go. And I don't think it's black or white where you need to be perfect all the time, right? But I think it's kind of like compound investing, right? Every choice we make is a decision in the direction of where we want to go, right? So there's some nights I'm going to stay up and I'm going to watch that Netflix, bring it on, right? But there's where I'm like, I don't want to get up and beat the kids up, because that's when I have the most free space to do the things that are going to advance my life. So I'm going to make that decision and make that choice. So I think it's really kind of about, if you're somebody, you're just like, what are my, air quote, good and bad habits? I think it's kind of being self-aware and taking an honest review of the things that you're currently doing in your life, and maybe putting a plus or minus, right? And plus is in, it's a step closer, and minus is in, it's having me moonwalk a little bit. And neither is good or bad, but it's just ultimately, once again, it kind of ties in, where do you want to be 30, 60, 90 days from now, right?
Moonwalk is so much sexier than step back.
Come on, move. You got
Come
those
on.
flag in it, right? Like, and then, also, I'm also about the positivity, right? So if you moonwalk, as we all gonna do at some point, it's not, you look cool doing it, but you understand, all right, I gotta throw this back in reverse. I gotta go where I want to go. So you're also putting that positive spin on, who
Yeah.
you want to be, right?
Yeah.
And I think too, like, once you kind of get the ideas of, we talk about be, do, have, right? I think a lot of times it applies a lot in fitness as well, man. We want things to come in anything. We want things to come ASAP. We are such instant gratification like beings. But the truth is, I think we really need to be honest with ourselves and understand that, number one, things take time, especially things that are great that we want to manifest.
But
And
Soji, I want it tomorrow.
don't want it, right? Like no, but then everybody would be there.
But
Then
Soji, someone on Instagram said it was easy.
right? Like, come on, these people on Instagram, why they be lying to us? Why they be lying to us? And you wouldn't even want to keep it then. I feel like that's a big piece of working hard and earning it, and really being able to stand at the top of that podium and feel this deeper level of respect just for yourself and what you've accomplished. It feeds back into this identity that you're creating, right? Like,
so good. All right. I love tactical steps and frameworks. So I'm putting you on the spot here, because I know this is not something that maybe, I don't know, I've never seen you present it, but I'm going to ask you to walk me through it. We're not seeing these habits as bad or good, right? They're just neutral. It's like you said, it's sort of the first step is having self-awareness, because self-awareness is key here. If we had to sort of break down, call it 3 steps, 5 steps, I don't care, to redirect a habit in a new direction that's going to serve us better for the future that we want to create. If step 1 is having the self-awareness that maybe right now that thing isn't serving you, what would sort of be the next steps to sort of get out of this quote unquote bad habit?
Get out of this bad habit. So I would take this, I would look forward. I would say, where do I want to end up? Right. Okay. What are the pluses that I need to throw together in succession in order to go closer or forward to where I want to go? Right. So at that point, I would, and everyone's different. Everyone is different, right? So if somebody came to me, there's some people who I take more of a slower approach with, right? So let's say if it's meal planning, right? And say that you're eating 4 meals in a day, they're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner and a snack, or maybe call it meal 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the case is. That's going to be 28 meals in a week, right? So there's somebody who may come in. If I say, hey, man, you need to plan all meals or 28 meals, or you need to have this Instagrammable Ziploc bag laid out, screenshot and sent to me, they're going to give me 2 middle fingers and they're going to walk off, right? So the same person, they may say, hey, Soji, I think I could win my first meal every single day. And I'd say, hey, do you think you can knock that out with maybe 99.99999% confidence, right? With the understanding that we're going to mess up, we're going to fail sometimes, and that's okay. But I want you to step into something or take ownership over a direction that you feel completely confident in stepping into. It's not my decision. Like, we're a team here, but this is you. This is you taking ownership. That same person, and maybe a different person who's like, Soj, I want to actually plan out all 28 meals because like I need to knock it out. And that's going to motivate, inspire me more. So, like depending on these people, I try to get like a percentage completion chart throughout the week, and we review weekly. And we just we also
Are we talking like gold star sticker charts here? Because I'm all for it.
I like to gamify. I think
yeah.
make fun, like building streaks, checking things off. I think, and then celebrating when you do, right? Like,
yeah.
I think all this is about, if we're talking about getting from A to getting to that future version of yourself, it's proving to yourself who you are with small action and showing up consistently, right? So if we take a step back and we look at that identity, it's I think a lot of times when people try to create change, like James Clear talks about his life, he says this golden circle of identity, right? The outside is our processes, our outcome. Our outside is our outcome, and these are the small actions that maybe we're doing a day in, day out basis, one-offs to move us closer to this predetermined goal. One more layer in is our process. It's the habits and systems. So it's stringing together a lot of these actions and doing it consistently. But on that deeper inside of that golden circle is our identity. It is what we believe about ourselves and our ability to accomplish things out in this world, what we believe about other people in the world in general. And I think it's really important to, if you're trying to embark on a journey of transformation and change, just showing up with small action and layering up these pluses on top of each other. So you can look yourself in the mirror and say like, yo, I am that person. I can't accomplish this. This is for me. You build confidence. And that's even why a lot of times, when I work with people, I'm very action as opposed to outcome orientated, right? So like our outcomes, we don't have control over when they're going to pop up and show up at our doorstep trying to sit down at dinner with us, right? We don't have that. We don't have that control. Our actions, our behaviors, we can directly impact and influence those. And how we hit those behaviors. And ultimately, right, if you are, let's say we can't, as I said, we can't directly dictate an outcome, but if we are showing up and we're taking action that are those pluses that are going to move us forward, and we do a lot of those, chances are we're going to probably shift closer into the direction of where we want to go and ultimately end up in that direction. As I said, I'm more of a direction guy, moving us in that process.
Well, forward is pace.
Forward is boom.
Forward is pace. When you focus on the action rather than the outcome, I don't know why diving just came into the analogy that I want to use because I know nothing about diving. I mean, it's pretty much the same as gymnastics, so I can figure it out along the way, but we're going to go with it because that's what came up.
Right.
This idea of sort of the micro wins along the way will get you to the ultimate, big win someday, one day, maybe. Right. And so when we think of a diver going off I don't know how high the platforms are, 10-foot platform, and they're doing a double front with a full twist into like the perfect dive. It's like, we both know that not only did they have to first start on like the side of the pool and then go to a regular springboard and then a little bit higher and then a little bit higher. And then they get to the platform and then the higher platform. So it's not just that they had to raise the height over time, both with skill and confidence and safety, but they also had to first learn like the dive. And then maybe you have to learn how to do a front flip and then a 1.5 and then a double front flip. And now you're adding in the full twist. And if you know anything about any sport, it's like they're practicing that in the pool. They're also practicing that on the floor or into a foam pit with like attached to a belt, where they're on a pulley system and their coach is helping them. And so when we can focus on these tiny little actions of like, today, the only thing I need to do is to jump off the edge, and I could do a cannonball. It doesn't matter. I just have to jump off the edge, right? Because one day I'll be able to jump off a higher platform and then higher and higher. And so it's this cumulative, compound, collective win after win after win after win, where one day, go back into the breadcrumbs, right? You're like, how the hell did I get to the other side of the forest? And you look back and you're like, oh, snap, I ate all the breadcrumbs. Like I just got here. But the process of picking the breadcrumbs up, the process of, learning the dive or making the money or losing the weight, whatever it is, when we're in it, it's frustrating. When we're in it, it can feel like it's taking too long. When we're in it, sometimes we get so focused on the end. And before you said something about running a marathon, it's another great example. It's like, how do you run a marathon? Literally one step at a time.
That's it.
It's one step at a time. You don't run the marathon thinking about the finish line. That is going to be painful for 26.2 miles if that's all you're thinking about.
Long race.
That is a long race. So it's the action of one step, one step, one step versus the outcome of finish line with that silver aluminum jacket.
Biting onto the metal. And I totally agree. If we look at that marathon perspective, I think skills or like the little actions that we're talking about. And I love that the diving analogy and just how you cascaded that. That was like
I don't
perfect.
know anything
So
diving.
If I'm running in a marathon and I'm just thinking about that 26.2, like that finish line, like my muscles probably going to start aching a little bit more, right? This race 26.2 is going to probably feel like I'm running to another country or so. But if I'm just focused on the next step, if I'm, looking to the left or right of me, and I'm just like soaking in this energy and this experience of that moment and really like shifting my perspective about the same place I'm in, your situation is completely different, right?
Yeah.
You're going around to the side of the race, you're high-fiving, right? You're seeing that guy with like the 2 beers, maybe you're grabbing a swig, handing it back to him, getting back in the race. But your experience is different. You're enjoying yourself more, and you're much more likely to finish your marathon or your race because you're having fun, right? Like if I'm focused on the actions and skills that I can actually continue to layer on top, I'm finding this sense of confidence just even through completion.
Sure.
And I feel like I'm developing into just a higher level of myself. It's like a video game. It's so cool. Like you're throwing on all these accessories and you're leveling up to go and face this final boss. But you show up at him, right? Like you maybe started this novice and you just had like a loincloth on, right? But you get to the boss, you got like level 99 armor, you got like 2 shields, you got like a ray gun you can take out your back, and you feel like a different.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Thermal glasses. Like I see the whole thing. I love that you just brought this up because in business, I've been using this analogy a lot, this idea of video games and how in life, in business, in our fitness journey, like we write the rules. And so often we forget that we have the pen, like you said. And so here's the thing with video games, and I don't play them, but I understand them. Every single board, there's, let's call it a beast. There's going to be a beast at every board. There's going to be a hole that you fall into, a person that shoots at you, a monster that eats you. Every single board, there's going to be a beast, and that beast is a challenge. And when you get past that board, newsflash, the next board also has a beast. And the beast, it might look different. So instead of someone shooting at you, now a helicopter is going to smash into you or whatever, you're going to get blown up. But there's just going to be another challenge or another beast. And we're in this weird simulation where we think that because we get the end of the board and we figured out this beast and we've accomplished this one challenge, that all of a sudden it's going to be smooth sailing and we're never going to hit a challenge again. Or we know that we are, but then when it happens, we throw a fit. And it's like, no, you literally, that is your only job, is on every single board to beat the beast. And then you're going to get to the next board. Congratulations. At the end of that board, there's going to be a beast. And so this reframe of sort of like loving the process of that and having fun and being present in the moment removes so much of the pressure of not being good enough or it not happening fast enough or all of a sudden being surprised that there's a challenge. But here's the thing too. You write the rules. So you get to write how difficult the board is going to be. You get to write what means, like, what does it mean if you fail? How do you get another life? How many one-ups do you get on the board? You're writing the rules. And so if you're in this sort of self-sabotaging cycle of, I failed, I didn't do it, I'm not good enough, it's taking too long, then that will continue. But if you take the pen and you rewrite the rules and you allow yourself to stumble because you're like, I have endless lives on this board, I can just keep coming back and trying it again and trying it again, the game just got a whole lot more fun. All right.
Like, I love that you're respawning, right? Like failure isn't fatal in that instance, right? Because you respawn, you come back to the board with another lesson, and you're able to get further and advance closer to that boss. So it's a beautiful thing when you look at it that way, right? Like every time we trip or we stub our foot, right? Like we're just learning to step around that block the next time around. We're
Yes.
able to prepare for the obstacles that are going to be dropped off in our path. And
Oh,
you're able to do it with a smile too. Like, all right, the board just gets so much more enjoyable, so much
but
more.
gosh, and then you memorize this where you stubbed your toe and where you got hit with the rock. And like I'm literally, so I did used to play as a kid, I played the Lion King. Okay, that's the game that I played was the Lion King. And there was a board, I don't know, call it board 2 or 3. If anyone out there, please let me know, like DM me if you played the Lion King. Okay. I think it was Super Nintendo, maybe. Um, it was board like 2 or 3. And Simba, it's when he's a cub still, he's not a grown up yet. And he jumps on the ostrich, the back of the ostrich, and you go through the board on the back of the ostrich. And you have to like duck under the tree branch and jump over the rock. And you have to like keep doing it. But the point is exactly what you said. After you've gone through the board enough times and you've gotten knocked off the ostrich because you didn't duck in time, or you fell off the ostrich because you tripped over a rock, you begin to memorize where those challenges are. And literally my thumbs could probably still do it where you're like up, down, 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 up, right, down, right, right. Cause like, it's coming and then you nail it and you get to the end of the board and you're like, I finally beat it. But it took me 15 tries to memorize up, down, right, left, right.
That honestly, you don't know how many feelings and emotions just like began to just rise up through my body. So Lion King #1, super epic. I played that game.
Did you?
I played it, yes.
Hell
And
yeah.
that specific part. And you know what? I turned the game off and I gave it to my brother. So now I have to track that down, and I'm gonna have to go and redominate the Lion King with this new knowledge I have of life. Because seriously,
So true though.
it's so true. Like it's so true. Like
It's
you
so
memorize
true.
it, like, the fingers are going everywhere, and you just understand. Like you're never entering that level as the same individual as when you first started that match, that game or that board, right? And that's another piece that makes life pretty epic, right? Like your perception, was it perspective is perception? Perception is reality. There we go.
Yeah.
Like I just love that. You could look at that, how you look at that board just dictates how that scene is going to play out for you. Like there was a study a while ago. There were like 10 optimists who walked into a room, and they're all looking around. They all found this $100 bill on the floor, and they all go to the bar and they strike up a conversation with people at the bar who could be the next guide or mentor or CEO who hires them. Then they have 10 pessimists all go into the room, and they all miss the $100 bill, and they go and sit at the bars by themselves. And you go through the same board, and you have a completely different experience based on how you view life and what you're going through.
And what you focus on, you find. We talk about this all the time. Reticular activating system, your RAS, right? It's like we have literally talked about this so many times where you buy a new pair of sneakers and all of a sudden everyone's wearing the same sneakers. It's like, no, not everybody found out about them or they didn't buy them because you were wearing them. It's like they've always been wearing them. You just weren't paying attention. So what you focus on, you find. When it comes to focus, so one of the things that is coming up for me when we're having this conversation of just being present, being in the board, being grateful for the tools, every board you come back, you have a new, weapon or tool or whatever. This idea of presence, being present is really difficult. You were talking about it before at the marathon. You go over, you grab a swig of the beer, all that stuff. It's like being present, being in the moment, being with the step that you're on instead of so focused on the goal. And we're not saying don't have goals. We're saying being present, like on your way to them, because also the goal could change. How many times have we changed the goal where we're going? Yeah, you can jump in if you have something.
I love that. I was going to even say, like, as we're going on this journey, and another piece of just kind of keeping your eyes open, your goals may change. And if you're open to, your goal may come in a different form too as well, if you have these values, right?
Yeah.
Your values just kind of head down, you're focusing, you're grinding, and that next big break or the next big thing in your life may be present for you if you just kind of walk to that board with a different, just with eyes open, taking the goggles off and just surveying. Like,
yeah,
that's completely different.
Yeah. So, and I also think when we're talking about presence, being present allows you, in my opinion, to be open to surrendering, call it faith, surrender, trust, whatever you want to call it, right? That's something, it's this or something better. That's my mantra. It's this or something better. So if it's actually not what I want, but it's something better, bring it on, universe. Like, I'll take it. You know what I mean? I'm here to receive it. But that sort of sitting in the present moment and being aware to where you are and to what you're doing and to have your eyes open to the other perspectives is where that all comes in. So for me, the practice of presence is challenging at times, I think, for any of us, especially it's 2023. We're recording this literally 14 hours after a brand new app launched last night. Everyone's spending all their time on Threads. It's, Instagram's sister app. By the time this airs, who knows if it's still going to be a thing, if it's going to be the hottest thing, not a thing anymore, who knows, right? It's really hard to practice being quiet, being still, and being present when we have so much noise. It's just a lot. We have a lot. We got busy lives. We've got technology. We've got all these things. So something for me that has changed my life, and I know you're on the same page. I've been doing it now for about, I don't know, like 12 years consistently. Probably started earlier. Actually, I know I started earlier because it was introduced to me when I was a teen. So grateful for that with my mom, but also a sports psychologist and coaches I had in gymnastics. And it started with like the gateway drug, if you will. And no, I'm not talking about marijuana, but like the gateway of meditation, right? And it started with a simple visualization or a simple, like, we're just going to take you through this guided something or other. And over the years, it has progressed to now, I'm very, very proud to say, I've completed Dr. Joe Dispenza's week-long advanced retreat, which was insane. I should do a whole episode on it, where we literally meditated one day for 4 hours and 45 minutes with no break, wow. no guidance during parts of it either. And so, what started as like a quick little visualization turned into practicing meditation. And meditation to me is so important for us, right? To sit in silence. And what people don't understand, they think that I'm too busy to meditate. And I'm like, oh, you need it more than anybody then, if that's what you're saying. And also there's this misconception that meditation is I have to sit in silence, but I can't because I have too many thoughts and my brain is so busy. I have too many thoughts. So I can't meditate. I'm not good at it. And the misconception is it's not supposed to be quiet. It doesn't have to be silent. You're not supposed to be thoughtless. You're supposed to be thoughtful. And so you allow the thought to come in, and it's acknowledging that the thought is there and then just moving past it like a wave in the ocean. It's like, how quickly can you allow it to just move? And then it comes in again and you move it again. And that in itself is the practice.
That's it.
When did you bring meditation into your daily practice or your weekly practice? And at what point were you like, I got to bring this into my clients? Like, this is life-changing.
So I also was introduced to it by my mother when I was in high school, right?
Wow.
Like, so my mom, she's a light in my life, and she to this day, I'll get the text, "Do you meditate today?" Like she's fully into it. So for me, it kind of came after she introduced it to me after my parents had split up and divorced, so just as a way to begin to process my emotions, right? Because even at the time, and this is something I'm still even working on today, to just be a little bit more vulnerable, being a little bit more sitting in the feelings and just not saying this is gonna be fine, just move past it, right? And meditation for me came at a really good time to just being able to begin to get more aware of what was going on in my inner world. So, I kind of tapped into it there, but I'm not saying like in high school I was like full on going for it, but coming out of college in my 20s, it began to be much more of a like, this needs to be an everyday thing. When I do this, I step out into the world as a different person, right? And when I don't do it, I start to feel the pieces and the world kind of crumble around me. And I love a lot of what you said too, just in terms of people thinking that meditation needs to be your mind being completely clear. And there's so many different studies on this too. You hear places or things floating around where they're saying like the average person thinks around 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. So if you're a person who thinks you need to clear out your whole mind, you're going to be there for a while. Yeah. And when I say to those people, like the act of being able to sit down and even recognize that you're thinking and return your focus and attention to somewhere else, that itself right there, you're meditating, my friend. That itself is being present. Each moment is an opportunity for you to return to recognizing what is right now. Like each breath, right? Each thought that passes, right? You're not grabbing onto that train that's taking you down to Grand Central. You're just acknowledging it. And this could go for it could go for thoughts, it could go for feelings, it could be the soundtrack of your life that's going on around you. But I feel like this idea of presence is just being able to step back into the here and now And when you're able to be more present, like I saw just the benefits for myself. And I started to see with my clients, like wellness isn't just physical, right? Like you may know exactly what you need to do in the gym. You may know exactly what you need to eat, but a lot of times you're getting in your own way, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of started off as that, like, all right, I know I should be doing this. I know I should be doing this. Why am I not doing it? So then I'm taking a look at their lives, and they got this packed situation at work. They're juggling 3 kids. They are working on a process that is a project at work that maybe is just stressing them out completely. And meditation for me has been a cool tool. And people also understanding that what works for me, and my meditation is on a day in, day out basis. I may have a day where I'm like, man, this is clicking, man. I feel I'm
Oh
floating.
yeah.
Days where the thoughts feel more omnipresent, right? So, but it's a practice. It's a practice, and it's a thing where if you do it consistently, and you could do it there's studies that show 5 minutes, like for 8 weeks, like there's benefits in that.
Yeah.
So, with these people who are super busy, we kind of start off with this like simple breath work. And I started when I was in college. I would just like kind of boom. I would go to like kind of listen to playbacks and things like that. And I'm kind of advanced now. Like if I grab one, I'm cool with it, but I may just kind of sit down and just be. But that point of saying that is that I think a lot of times people have this image of what meditation needs to look like,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like,
mountaintop, total silence, 75 degrees and sunny, like with a little bit of a breeze. Like you have to have this perfect, everything has to be perfect in order to do it. And it's like, no, your eyes don't even have to be closed.
exactly. That's a big thing. Like it really is your practice, right? Like when I'm leading people in meditation, I'm like, if you prefer to keep your eyes open with a gentle gaze because you feel more comfortable, do that, right?
Yeah,
If sitting lotus isn't the thing for you with your legs crossed and that like makes you like that scares you, sit down with your back flat, lay down on the ground, right? Like,
yeah,
different meditations with different rules, but I say if you practice it more consistently, you're much more likely to see the benefits from practicing. So make it your practice.
absolutely. It's a muscle. The mind is a muscle like anything else. And so it's not about going in and doing 10 bicep curls and expecting to have biceps. It's the consistency of doing it over and over. And then when something comes up that you need to use that muscle, right? So we're in our daily life and the car door is stuck and you're pulling it and it's jammed and you're like, thank goodness for these muscles, right? And I got my biceps and it's going to open. The thing with meditation is that it's sort of coming back to presence. It's learning how to regulate your central nervous system. It's taking a couple deep breaths. It's allowing that thought or that feeling like a wave to pass. And so now you're in a heightened conversation with a loved one, or you get in trouble, or you're at work and your boss needs to talk to you. And it's like, that's when you pull the card of let me come into that, not sit down in lotus and do a 15-minute meditation because I might not be able to, but like the bicep muscle that all of a sudden is working when you're pulling on the car door. It's like, oh, I have this tool. I can shift the way that I'm thinking. I can come back to center. I can come back to presence. And when we're not present is when we get hurt. And when you're talking about something like fitness, literally, it's like every injury that has happened in the gym is because somebody is just for one split second, you're not present. It's one split second that you let the core go and you don't have the tight abs, and then you wiggle and you fall and you roll your ankle. It's the person on their phone who's walking across the street and they don't look up that all of a sudden trips over the curb or falls into a fountain. We've seen the videos. It's hilarious, but it's like, yeah, but it happened because they weren't present.
They weren't here. They weren't
Yeah.
with us. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your favorite type of meditation or like style or person to listen to if you are doing guided, or prompts that you kind of walk yourself through?
So I love Vipassana. Like I'm really big into just like the self-observation and just self-awareness aspect.
Yeah.
And it's something I've used since college, and I can say in my relationship now, it's really just big goal of mine is just to work on being more vulnerable, more in tune with my emotions and the emotions of my kids, my wife, the clients I interact with. And for me, it's just done a great job. Vipassana done a great job of allowing me to throw that pause in to
Mm.
situations, right? So you talked about kind of when you're in heated confrontations, being able to pull that card out and just make a choice of how you want to react as opposed to it being on autopilot and just going, right? So the Vipassana, whether it's, just focusing on mindfulness of the breathing body or my breath or my thoughts or emotions, sensations in my body. Like those are things where when I was running and racing through the city, I'm going from train to train, client to client. I'm like, oh, I'll take care of that back later. I'll take care of that bum. Now I'm in tune. And if my knee's aching, I'm gonna just take a step back during a workout, or I'm gonna give myself the proper.
Moonwalk.
Exactly. I'm gonna moonwalk. Exactly. Yeah. I'm gonna moonwalk and maybe like turn it down that day, right? Like
Yeah.
if my
Yeah.
kids are, like they get me up 3 or 4 times in the middle of the night, like I can step to them and just smile and kind of shift the mood of a situation just because of that, right?
Yeah.
So, so right now I've kind of been in a space of trying to play around with leading them myself. But there was a Joe Dispenza one on YouTube, a 20-minute one that I would just kind of fully go into, and like in terms of just being present and being in my body and understanding where my nose was in space. And like
Yeah.
that was also I loved it. I always felt calmer. I always felt,
Hey.
yeah, exactly. Say it again. Say it again. I love it. But that would always make me just feel more in tune, right? So if
Yeah.
I was guided, I kind of listen to that one a lot. That's my heavy rotation. Or
Yeah.
I kind of try to like freestyle myself. And depending on how I'm feeling that day, right? Like, I start off with just mindfulness of the breathing body. So I may just focus on the air coming in through my nostrils and just seeing how that feels and the sensations that arise. And then if it's one of those days when I'm feeling very achy, right? Like I may switch to sensations and just do a body scan, right? If I'm feeling very emotional or like upset that day, maybe I want to sit in tune with my thoughts and my feelings and just say, hey, what's going on, right? Another
Yeah.
one, another style I love is compassion meditation, right? So for me, I think it's very easy for all of us, or for a lot of people, I can speak for myself, right? We tend to at times be so gracious and forgiving and loving to everyone around us. And so, our friends come to you with their biggest struggle. You're willing to pull a chair out and just tell them everything will be okay. And they're the best. And oh, it was just one failure. Move on. You got this. When it comes to ourselves, we're ready to take the hammer out and just like beat ourselves in the head with a mallet, like it's like a WB cartoon or something, right? But I think a lot of times with like a compassion meditation, I think it really kind of gives us a chance to sit in and send ourselves well wishes, to send ourselves love and good vibes and positivity and good direction, right? To breathe in the things we need more of and breathe out what's holding us back, right? So like I love that solid meditation. It just not only makes me feel better, but also kind of use that moment to send good vibes out to other people, right? So it really overall changes my trajectory for that given day. Or if I'm doing it at night, just allows me to go to bed in a better headspace.
What a gift. And it's free.
And it's free. And it is free.
free.
You don't need to take long to do it.
How old are the kids? 3 and 1?
Very close. So actually my oldest one, he'll be 3 next month. I'll be sharing the same birthday. I'm super excited. The other one is 8 months. 8 months. And he's like crawling around, 4 teeth popping out, trying to bite his older brother.
Oh my
like,
God. Are you doing meditation with them yet? Are you teaching them meditation? Are you?
Bernard.
Yes.
So my oldest one, when he's been having some emotional stuff at school. There was some kids kind of bullying him a little bit. He would come home maybe like I'll say like 8 weeks, 2 months ago, come home screaming, super erratic. He's normally a very calm, empathetic kid, but he was kind of pushed into a corner and just didn't know how to control his emotions. So he would lash out and outburst. So we actually bought him this book on emotions, and there's this little monkey who drops his ice cream, and he's upset when it drops, but one of the tools that he utilizes is meditation. And I was like, hey, like I'll sit on the side, and when he comes in and sees me, I like to do it in open view. Like I'll maybe meditate with my eyes closed, and then I'll just get bonked to the head, or somebody will jump on my lap, and I'll just have them sit there with me, because I think it's such a beneficial practice. And if he could see me do it, he sees that I'm his idol, hopefully, right? And he kind of learns these things that I'm doing. So he'll sit down with me, and we're starting out with 10 breaths for him, right? That's his right now.
Yeah.
10 inhales and exhales. But every time he's upset, I just say, Bernard, it's time to meditate. And he looks exaggerated, right? I can calm down a little bit. But the concept, he's beginning to get it. And he's like, I'm like, do you feel better? Do you feel happier? Yes, I do, Dad. And then he goes in and walks in, and we kind of talk about it. Becomes much easier to also have a conversation with him and really kind of help him point out his emotions when he could take a step back and recognize how he's feeling.
Man,
so
kids are the best teachers.
They are.
They really are. They're just little mirrors. We're all just kids inside, and we forget that. And it's like we throw tantrums just like they do. We just do it in a different way, or we let it bottle up, and a different conversation turns into
Yeah, no,
disease. And
I was like, oh man, like,
we can't go
yes.
down that road now. We're an hour in.
Oh, give us another hour, Jess. Let's go. I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you, my friend.
Man, they are so lucky to have you.
Yeah, and like they've been great teachers for me to really, kind of kick myself back into gear business wise.
Yeah.
And also just for patience, right? Patience myself, and just like looking at them, I feel like, as you said, we're all kids, but as we go through the world kind of strips off our armor and tells us what we are not capable of doing, and how we should move and operate when we walk into spaces.
Yeah.
And I see Bernard, he's going there with his curly little afro, and he's just jumping in like, who wants to be my friend? Let's go. Right. So like that fearlessness, that smile, that willing to walk up to anybody and just give them a hug and say hello, like it's very inspiring. It's very, very inspiring. The patience and connection he's having with his little brother, it's beautiful to see. Like when I think about like pure love and happiness and like genuine wishing the best for others, I see this kid move around. Like it just reminds me, even on my worst days, like, yo, you have the best things going on. You have the best teacher right in front of you. Like, just snap out of it. Let's get back to business. Let's get back to regular scheduled programming.
So good. I don't want to end this. I really don't, but I feel that I need to allow you to go and do nightly, dad duties or whatever. Before we wrap with a couple of rapid fire questions, pimp yourself out. What do you got going on? What do you got for our people? Where can they find you? How can people work with you? How can they learn more about what you do?
You can find me on Instagram at soji.james1. That's SOJI.James, JAMES1. You can also go to sojijames.com. And I'm just an individual who loves to help burnt out dieters lose fat and find confidence by ditching quick fixes for a new relationship with food and fitness, baby. I'm going to be launching my next round of Elevate You in September. So right now it's all about just building the infrastructure, right? Removing the quick stand and kind of building strong foundation under the business as I step into this next phase of my life. But if you are interested, if you're somebody who's listening, you're like, yo, diets are not for me. I'm done being on the wheel. I want to get off of that. I'm really big into, as we were talking about earlier, skills and habits. So I have a download available. It's at the link in my bio on Instagram, or you can find it on my website. And it's all about eating skills that'll set you up to get long-term fat loss results, and in a sustainable process that you enjoy and you love. So I definitely want you to go check that out if that's something that you're jamming with, you're vibing with. And, I appreciate you for even taking the time to sit here and listen to me ramble for the last hour. I love you all.
Yeah.
And
I love it. And we'll make sure we'll drop that in the show notes too, that link. So it's really easy to go to. I'm like, even if I don't want help with diet and fitness, I'm pretty sure I'd just join your program to be in your energy, because it's just so good. So I'm sure there are other people that feel the same way.
Appreciate you.
You ready for some rapid fire?
Let's bring it. All right.
So whoever they are, there's a board somewhere. There's got to be, because we always say, they say new levels, new devils. What is a current new devil for you? What's a current struggle that's coming up?
Current struggle that's coming up right now. I'm going to say I've always been like the shiny object guy. So currently have just done a 90-day sprint, and I've locked in on 3 goals that I'm staying laser focused on.
Yes, that used to be my hashtag. Laser focused.
I like a little drop right there, a little old to my girl. That I'm staying super focused on for the next 90 days. And for me, it's just really about waking up and eating the frog first, like doing the things that usually tend to be the things that I don't want to do. But like, it's staying focused on those 3 goals as I move into this next phase of my business. Right. So not getting a shiny object. It's waking up maybe a little bit earlier to show up for myself before the kids wake up, and just make that non-negotiable. Because we're on the growth train, like nobody's stopping us. Let's go.
Woo woo. Favorite movie?
Boom, boom, boom. Oh man, I'm gonna say you know what just popped up? The Departed. I love those. Like, I big fan.
Yeah. All right.
Like, kind of mob dramas.
Take it. I love it. Are you currently words are hard. Are you currently reading anything? If so, what are you reading?
I'm reading Emotional Intelligence 2.0 right now. So
for me,
as you're saying, just kind of becoming a little bit more self-aware of how I'm reacting, triggers of mine, being able to be more in tune with my partner, my kids, my clients. I think it allows me to show up as a better dad, coach, human. So it's been good so far.
What's something that people get wrong about you?
That I don't have bad days. I'll say that I am.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
You do?
I feel like, I'm always smiling. I'm always super optimistic. And this year I've really been trying to just be more vulnerable and show that side of things because, we're all going through something and we're all, at the end of the day, we want similar things when we strip it down and we talk about like basic human needs.
Yeah.
We have this basic human needs and, we're all just trying to get it figured out one day at a time. So, I'm not always smiling. I don't wake up breathing rainbows and, I go through struggles. I've been through some hard things in my life, but I'm still showing up each day with another smile, ready to keep at it.
Yeah. $50,000 question. If I were to cut you a check and give you $50K tomorrow that you had to use in or on your business, you could split it up or use it in one lump sum. How would you invest it?
I'm going to start more. I can split up, you said too.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely need to start hiring, right? So in terms of that 90-day sprint, like that's definitely one thing I'm doing a delegate exercise currently, but in terms of where I want to go, I'm at a space where I want to be able to expand without just being in front of my phone or a computer at all points of my day, right? So I think I actually spend a lot of that bringing on some support coaches. If I'm talking about other things I gotta delegate, Canva, man, like my graphics here, like that is not my jam. So, I'm really, I'm on the hunt. So if somebody's here and they hear that and they're like, yo, you're that person, hit me up. I'm on the hunt for someone who can help me kind of convey my ideas in a much quicker way. You know what I mean? In terms of whether it's PowerPoints, whether it's Instagram posts or whatever the case. So I'm gonna say for me, it's kind of like it's things like that. I love the coaching, like the coaching stuff that's my genius. I love being in the energy of that, but kind of putting some money towards the other aspects of my business that are a little bit slower and take up more of my time is definitely where I'm leaning towards right now and still continue to think about. So,
yeah, smart. Okay, last and final question. You ready?
I'm ready.
It's the same one we ask everybody. So we both probably agree that our businesses are a reflection of us and they only grow to the extent that we grow. And so as we grow and evolve, we're always changing, right? And that's why we name the company Digital Business Evolution, because we're always growing and evolving. What is your next personal or business evolution?
Next personal business evolution. It's to delegate. It's to give responsibility to someone other than myself. Like I found that even in the first iterations of my course, I'm kind of like helicopter dad, right? And, I'm creating stuff that I'm creating my baby that I'm very attached with, but I think it's time to like take off his training wheels and send him to the corner to get onto the bus by himself, right? And like, and do this with some other people who are maybe better at doing some things than I am. So I think for me, it's always been a struggle to ask for help. And in my life, I've just kind of been the person when things are going wrong, like I've been the person that other people step to and look to kind of be saved. So I think I need to, my big next evolution is kind of releasing the keys to other people in my business to help me take it to the next level.
That's amazing because not only is it going to help you and your family, but it's just going to help so many more people. So I'm excited for you. Soji James, thank you so much for being on the show. I just adore you so much. If you love this episode and you want to share with Soji and tell him some of your big takeaways, what you're working on, or if you just want to let us know that you know what the Lion King game is, because come on, I know I'm not the only 80s baby here, all right? You're going to grab a screenshot of this episode, post it up on social media, tag Soji at soji.james1. That is the number 1. Tag me at I am Jessica DeRose. Let us know what your takeaways were. And as always, friends, cheers to your evolution. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you loved this episode, I invite you to be a part of our ripple effect and share it with a friend. And please, if you feel called, take 30 seconds to leave a 5-star review, and I'll be forever grateful. Until next time, cheers to your evolution.